I need a mother for my 7-year-old son by tomorrow, or I will lose him forever. If I fail, they will take him away from me and send him to an orphanage." The mountain man's voice trembled as he pleaded with the shopkeeper, desperation echoing in every word. But this was not just a desperate request. It was a moment that would decide the fate of 3 broken hearts and change their lives forever. If you enjoy emotional and powerful stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like, because every single day we bring you stories that touch the heart and stay with you forever. Evening was slowly falling over the small Wild West town of Redwood Creek. The sun was disappearing behind the mountains, painting the wooden buildings in a soft golden glow. A few horses stood tied along the dusty road. The air felt unusually quiet. Right in the center of the town stood a small general store. A wooden sign above the door read, "Whitmore General Store." It belonged to Clara Whitmore, a strong, independent woman who had learned to survive on her own. She was about 30 years old. Her blue eyes carried quiet confidence, while her face reflected the hardships life had shown her. She lived alone, and she ran the store all by herself. Clara was closing her old accounting book when suddenly the door slowly creaked open. The small bell above the door rang softly. She looked up. A tall, broad-shouldered but exhausted man was standing in the doorway. His clothes were covered in dust from travel. There was pain in his eyes and deep tiredness. This was Daniel Carter, a rancher who lived a few miles outside town. People knew him as an honest but very quiet man. And he wasn't alone. A small boy stood behind him, 7 years old, hiding behind his father, looking around with frightened eyes. This was Ethan Carter. Clara gently asked, "How can I help you?" Daniel stayed silent for a moment, as if searching for the right words. Then he removed his hat and spoke quietly. "I need to ask you something unusual." Clara frowned slightly. People usually came here for flour, sugar, coffee, or cloth. No one ever asked something like this. Daniel took a deep breath, his voice slightly shaking. "I need a mother for my son." Silence filled the store. For a moment, Clara thought she had misunderstood. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Daniel placed his hand gently on Ethan's head. "My wife died 2 years ago, Mary." Saying her name made his voice heavy. "Since then, I've tried to manage everything alone, the ranch, the house, and raising my son." Ethan quietly stared at the floor. Daniel continued, "But I'm failing." His eyes filled with emotion. "I can be a father, but I cannot be a mother." Clara's serious expression slowly softened. Daniel swallowed and said, "The town's social officer warned me. If I can't provide proper care, they will take Ethan away." Immediately, Ethan grabbed his father's hand. "I don't want to go anywhere, Papa." Daniel dropped to one knee. "You're not going anywhere, son." Then he stood and looked directly at Clara. "I was told you are a good and honest woman." Clara was confused. "What exactly are you asking from me?" Daniel answered plainly, "I want you to become my wife." Clara almost dropped the cup in her hand. She had never expected something like this. "You don't even know me." Daniel replied softly, "I know you have a kind heart. Sometimes that's enough." Clara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at Ethan. There was fear in his eyes, loneliness, and hope. Daniel said one final thing. "This is not a proposal of love. It can be an agreement. Your respect will always remain protected. I only want to give my son a mother." Something stirred inside Clara's heart. This truly was a strange request, but maybe this was more than just a request. Maybe this was about saving 3 broken hearts. And Clara knew whatever decision she would make would change 3 lives forever. Clara couldn't sleep that night.
Daniel's words kept echoing in her mind. I need a mother for my son. She sat by her window, staring into the darkness. Life in a small Wild West town was never easy, especially for a woman living alone. Clara had faced hardship before. Her parents had died when she was only 20. After that, she took over the store by herself. At first, people didn't take her seriously, but through hard work and honesty, she proved them all wrong. Marriage, however, was never part of her plans, especially not a marriage like this. The next morning, Clara opened the store as usual, but her mind wasn't on her work. Around noon, the door opened again. Daniel walked in. His face carried the same seriousness, but this time there was a small trace of hope in his eyes. Ethan was with him, quietly watching Clara. Daniel asked directly, "Have you thought about my question?" Clara didn't answer immediately. "I needed time. This is not a small decision." Daniel nodded. "I understand." Clara then asked, "Why did you choose me?" Daniel answered honestly, "Because you seem kind, and because you are strong. My son needs both." Clara looked at Ethan. "Your name is Ethan, right?" The boy nodded quietly. "Yes. What do you like?" "My mama used to tell me stories before bedtime." His voice became softer. Clara felt something melt inside her heart. "And now?" Ethan answered quietly. "Now the house feels very quiet." For a moment, Clara couldn't speak. Daniel lowered his eyes. "I try, but I can't replace his mother." Clara took a deep breath. "If I say yes, will this only be for Ethan?" Daniel answered immediately. "I will never pressure you. You will have time. This will be a respectful arrangement." "And if I say no?" Daniel stayed silent for a few seconds. "Then I won't blame you." Then he added quietly, "But I might lose my son." Silence filled the store again. Inside Clara's heart, two voices seemed to argue. One said, "This is not your responsibility." The other whispered, "But a child needs you." Finally, Clara spoke. "Answer me one question." "Of course." "Did you love your wife?" Pain immediately appeared in Daniel's eyes. "I still do." Clara nodded slowly. "Good. A man who knows how to truly love cannot be a bad man." Daniel said nothing. Then Clara spoke the words that would change everything. "I can say yes on one condition." Daniel immediately asked, "What condition?" "I will never force Ethan to call me mother, not until he chooses it himself." For the first time, relief appeared in Daniel's eyes. "That is more than fair." Clara added another condition, "And I will need time to learn ranch life." Daniel gave a small smile. "I will teach you." Then Clara looked at Ethan one more time. "Will you give me a chance?" The boy thought for a moment. Then he asked softly, "Will you tell me bedtime stories?" Clara's eyes filled with emotion. "Yes, I will." For the first time, the boy gave a small smile. Daniel spoke quietly. "So is that a yes?" Clara looked upward, as if asking destiny itself. Then she answered, "Yes, I want to try." Daniel exhaled deeply, as if a heavy weight had just been lifted from his shoulders. He knew this was not just a marriage. It was a new beginning. But what he didn't know was their real test had only just begun. The wedding was simple. No grand celebration. No music, no feast. Just a small ceremony in the town's little church. The priest said a few words. Daniel made his promise. Clara quietly said yes, and just like that, she became Mrs. Carter. But while the ceremony was quiet, the town was not. A few people stood outside whispering, "This doesn't look like a marriage for love. Maybe she did it for money, or maybe she wanted the ranch." In small Wild West towns, news travels fast, and stories travel even faster than truth. Clara heard the whispers, but she said nothing, because she knew why she had made this choice. That same day, she moved to Daniel's ranch. It was about 5 miles outside the town. Open land stretched in every direction, a simple wooden house, a barn, and a few horses. Clara looked around quietly. This was nothing like her life at the store. "This is your home now," Daniel said simply. Clara nodded softly. Inside, the house was modest. A wooden table, 3 chairs, a small fireplace, and a photograph on the wall. Clara slowly walked toward it. It was Mary, a gentle-faced woman with a peaceful smile. Clara asked softly, "This is Mary?" Daniel answered quietly, "Yes." Clara looked at the picture with respect. "She looks kind." Daniel replied, "She truly was." That night, Clara tried to take responsibility for the house. She cooked dinner, cleaned the rooms, tried to bring order, but everything was new to her. Ethan watched quietly, still unsure, still distant. When bedtime came, Ethan hesitated at his bedroom door. Clara asked gently, "Is something wrong?" He said hesitantly, "You promised a story." Clara gave a small, warm smile. "Yes, I did." She walked into his room. It was simple: a small bed, an old toy horse, and a small picture of Mary. Clara sat beside the bed. "What kind of story do you want?" Ethan answered, "Mama used to tell stories about brave people." Clara thought for a moment. Then she began telling a story about a boy who was afraid, but chose to be brave anyway. Ethan listened quietly. Slowly, his eyes began to close. Just before falling asleep, he whispered, "Thank you, Clara." He didn't say "Mom," but Clara didn't rush it. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night." When she stepped outside, Daniel was standing near the door. "Thank you," Clara simply replied. "He is a good boy," Daniel said quietly. "He used to laugh more," Clara answered gently. "Maybe he will again." But nothing was easy. The next day, Clara began learning ranch work, fetching water, feeding the chickens, staying away from the horses because she was still afraid of them. One day, she tried to lift a heavy bucket. It slipped from her hands. Daniel rushed over. "You don't have to do all this." Clara immediately replied, "If I live here, I need to learn." For the first time, Daniel saw her determination. "You really are strong," Clara answered quietly. "Life made me that way." But their real challenge was still coming. On the 3rd day, a man from town arrived at the ranch, the social officer. "I'm just here to see if the child's environment has improved." His eyes moved toward Clara with doubt. "Are you really capable of caring for this child?" Clara answered directly, "I will do my absolute best." The man responded coldly, "Sometimes, best is not enough." Then he left, but not without a warning. If everything was not perfect, Ethan could still be taken away. That night, all 3 were quiet. Daniel was worried. Clara felt the pressure. Ethan was afraid. And for the first time, all of them understood something important. This was not just a story about living together. This was a fight to prove they could become a family.
After the social officer's visit, the atmosphere inside the house had changed. Daniel became even quieter than before. From morning to sunset, he buried himself in ranch work. But the worry on his face was impossible to hide. Clara felt the pressure too. She understood something now. This was no longer just a marriage of convenience. This had become a test. And the one carrying the heaviest weight was Ethan. One afternoon, Clara found him sitting alone behind the barn, drawing lines in the dirt with a small piece of wood. She quietly sat beside him. "Are you all right?" Ethan didn't answer right away. Then he asked a question no child should have to ask. "What will happen if they take me away?" Clara felt her heart tighten. She answered gently, "No one is going to take you anywhere." Ethan looked down. "Everyone says that, and then they leave." In that moment, Clara understood something. This was not just a scared child. This was a broken heart. Clara spoke softly. "I am not going anywhere." For the first time, Ethan asked her directly, "Promise?" Without hesitation, Clara answered, "Promise." A few days later, the social officer returned, this time for inspection. He looked at the house, the kitchen, Ethan's room. Then he asked Ethan, "Are you happy here?" Ethan looked at Daniel, then at Clara. He was nervous. One wrong answer and everything could fall apart. Clara said nothing. She didn't pressure him. This had to be his choice. Ethan finally answered quietly, "Yes." The officer asked again, "Does this woman take care of you?" Ethan nodded, "Yes." Then came the hardest question. "Do you consider her your mother?" The room fell completely silent. Daniel almost stopped breathing. Clara could feel her heartbeat racing. Ethan thought for a few seconds. Then he walked toward Clara and gently held her hand. "She is not my real mama." Daniel felt his heart sink. But Ethan wasn't finished. "But she is my new mama." Tears instantly filled Clara's eyes. Then Ethan said the one word she had never demanded. "Mom, can I go play outside?" Clara smiled through her tears. Her eyes were wet, but her heart was finally at peace. "Yes, son." The social officer had seen everything. He closed his notebook. "I believe the child has found a family." For the first time, Daniel breathed freely. "So, he can stay?" The officer nodded. "Yes." He turned to leave, but before going, he said, "Not every family is built by blood. Some are built by choice." After he left, Daniel looked at Clara. "You changed my life." Clara answered softly, "Maybe we changed each other's lives." That same evening, Ethan came running inside. "Mom, look what I made." It was a small wooden house. "This is our home." Clara asked, "And these three little figures?" Ethan explained, "This is Papa, this is me, and this is you." Clara asked gently, "And what does this say?" Written in uneven little letters above it was one word, family. Tears of happiness filled Clara's eyes. She finally understood something. She had come here to become a wife, but she had become a mother. And Daniel? He had found more than a wife. He had found a partner. And Ethan? He had found a home again. Because sometimes families are not created in a single moment. Sometimes they are built slowly, with patience, with kindness, and with love.